today, what architecture means is, I think, really different to what it meant to me growing up. An architect is more than just a technical nerd that puts it all together, or like when people say, oh, you must have been good in physics or geometry. It's understanding humanity. It's understanding how humans interact in a space. It's understanding materials. It's understanding textures, sound, acoustics, light. You put that all together, and that's what architecture is. My name is Dan Brunn, and I'm an architect. The most significant thing about Bridge House might not be generally what you would attribute to architecture, but it's the response of how architecture reflects its site. What I wanted to do is literally bridge nature, right? And that's how this is a bridge house. The site is so unique. The site is 60 feet wide, 260 feet long. You just don't find that anywhere, with a brook running down the middle. It's insane. It would be a pity to just build a house in the front and have it view towards the back. And I would venture to say that 99% of developers would have done that. We've erased the notion of the suburban front yard, house, rear yard. And I think that is the biggest leap forward in this project. And what I wanted people to experience, to be able to come and experience Bridge House and to see, okay, if we don't stick with the norm, this is what we can do. To me, the story begins with the gate. So imagine the difference between you've been driving in LA, 60 miles an hour on a highway, 45, 35 on the streets, then all of a sudden, stop. You come home, clicker, slowly opens, almost like a theater curtain. You enter, and the house is ready for you, and you have this view towards the landscape. You then drive over these very specialized pavers that we co-developed with a company called Concrete Collaborative. On top of that, you have pebbles. As you're walking through, you hear the crunch, 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 and then, only then, do you start to hear the brook. So it's playing with all these different things, and Bridge House manages to combine these different elements all together. So the synthesis of the project was actually that DBA was hired maybe 6 years ago to renovate the existing building. So it's this beautiful building from the Art Deco era underneath this 90s postmodernist armature that was added. Our client saw it fit and understood in our shared vision of how do we go back to this heyday. We redid the skin of the building, reimagined it. The Architecture Review Board started to see, wait a minute, this development is unique. This is in the Golden Triangle. They are understanding our city. We got that approved. And I remember making the presentations, they're excited. They understood that I understood that Beverly Hills is a village and what we're giving back to them and the scale of it and the quality, and to the developers' desire to invest so much into it. A lot of people wouldn't have done it. We have museum glass storefront that nobody has that, the super clear glass. And as that proceeded forward, I remember Kurt asking us to divide up the interior of the space. And so we started thinking, well, if we divide it like this, maybe we'll have the Apple store in the corner. Maybe there'll be Supreme here. Who knows? Let's cut it up. Let's cut it up. We cut it up. And so our exercise was constantly like cutting up the space into different ways. I remember we kept cutting it up. And then one day said, maybe a restaurant. And we started looking at that. We started designing something. And then one day, without warning, Chef Evan walked into the space with Kurt. And I'm a huge fan. And I was like, whoa, is this gonna happen? And all of a sudden, it was happening. And so it was an incredible process of being able to collaborate with the hospitality team, with the chef and his vision. It got to be his project as well. He got to have his stamp on it as well. And he was heavily involved throughout the entirety of the process. So we're building this team. It took me a bit to understand what makes Funke so special. And I think what I started on the first part was what makes it, to me, part of the DBA ethos. And it's the experience, and it's the choreography. And the best analogy that I could put forth is the fact that it would be similar to you meandering through an Italian village where you have these narrow paths that you don't know where they're leading. All of a sudden there's light, there's no light, different textures. And then all of a sudden, boom, a piazza. Small piazza, a bigger piazza, a different experience that you didn't know. From the entrance, you walk into this amazingly large space, tall soaring ceilings with a Amaro bar to your right. On your left, this 23-foot tall glass vitrine pasta lab that's clad in chrome. And then a host would lead you. It could be to your left to the dining room. And that's a whole other experience where we have an installation in collaboration with a company called Articolo, where we have these 270 plus hand-blown Murano glass, what they're called fizzy balls. And there's 270 of them hanging in that space. Booth seating, open display exposition kitchen. You have your pasta lab. There's a lot of entertaining, a lot of things to take in to experience. Or the host could tell you, go up the stairs, and there's a whole other private stairs leading you through an archway that could either guide you to the rooftop or the mezzanine bar. So it's a layered experience, and I'm trying to, I try to think it through, where else could you get something like this, and I couldn't. What am I looking forward to? I'm looking forward to a break. I'm looking forward to breathing on a personal level. I've been on this project for 5 to 6 years, and that's not our only project, but we've given it all of our energy with love. It takes a lot. And so now I'm looking forward to the next inspiration, to be able to breathe, to be able to come back refreshed. We have some incredible personal resonances that we're working on with some clients that are on the next level again, that are trusting us to pull through another great new stories. It's honestly, the projects that excite us the most aren't necessarily the typology. It's the client. It's the client's desire to push on limits. It's our client's desire to utilize our best assets. That is what excites me. And so I'm looking forward to collaborating forth and working with my team and seeing, it's kind of like a rebirth and a beginning. Bring it on is kind of where I'm leading.